Ansible performs automated configuration tasks with pushing out ready network modules over SSH by default for a wide variety of network vendors like Cisco, Huawei, Juniper, F5, and many others. Ansible can perform its configuration tasks over NetConf and RESTCONF as well, instead of using SSH. The feature of Ansible is that it doesn't require agents to be installed on the target devices. It's easy, simple to deploy with its ready network modules, scalable, and doesn't require Python knowledge to deploy automated scripts. In this video, we will have 3 examples to use Ansible to automate Cisco IOS router. The first Ansible example, we have get_running_config.yaml file. This is our Playbook file included in the Ansible working directory. Let's check now the contents of the get_running_config.yaml. First, we have the file starts with 3 dashes to indicate that this is a YAML format file. Next, we have the name of the play, RESTCONF get router configuration. We have here, next, the hosts, routers. Routers is the group name defined in the inventory file. nano/etc/ansible/hosts. We can see here routers group name is configured between square brackets, and under the group name we have the host IP address, which is 192.168.129.156, which is the management IP address of the Cisco router we are going to automate with Ansible. We can check the IP address is configured on the router. Let's back again to the Ansible Playbook file, the first file. After we defined the router's group name for hosts, we have the connection here is local. Gather facts, no, we don't need to gather facts about the router. And next we have tasks. We will start the first task with its name. Task 1 is to get info. We are going to receive the configuration file of the router with RESTCONF Yang API. To define the RESTCONF Yang API, we have to define URI, and under URI we have URL, and then between quotes we have the URL. First, we started with 2 curly brackets and then URL, then we closed the 2 curly brackets. The URL here is a variable. The variable here is defined in the group vars file. Let's check the group vars file in the group vars directory. Change directory, group_vars. We can find here routers.yaml. This is the group vars file. In the group vars file, we have the required variables. We have Ansible_user, which is Hamdi, Ansible_password, which is Cisco, that will be used to log into the router with a username and password. And this is a URL. This is a URL variable we've seen in the Ansible Playbook file. The URL is between quotes https:// and between 2 curly brackets Ansible_host. The Ansible underscore host is the host IP address configured in the inventory file. Then /RESTCONF. This is the URL. Let's back to the working directory and check again the Ansible Playbook file. There will be /data/native. This is a complete URL that will be used in the Ansible Playbook file. Next is to use the user variable, which will be retrieved from the group vars file. Same for the password. And here is to define the method, the HTTP method that will be used by RESTCONF, which is get method. Next is to return underscore content variable, which is true. And next is to define the headers. The headers here, we accept application /yang-data plus JSON. Next is to define validate underscore certs, which is false. There is no need to validate certificates of HTTPS because we are in a lab environment, so it's acceptable not to validate the HTTP certs. Next is to define register. Register is running underscore config, which is the output received from the RESTCONF Yang API, which is the full configuration file of the router, will be stored in variable running underscore config. Next task is to print output, to print running underscore config. To be able to print running underscore config, we used debug, and under debug var, which is variable, which is running underscore config.json format, because we are going to exchange data between the router and the terminal, the Linux terminal, using JSON format. Let's now run the playbook file. To run the playbook file, we will simply use Ansible -playbook space the name of the playbook, which is get underscore running underscore config.yaml. We've successfully implemented the Ansible playbook file, and this is the result. We have the play recap. This is the IP address of the host, and we have 2 tasks completed. We have task 1, which is get info, it's okay, and task 2, which is print output, is okay as well. And this is the output. This is a running configuration file in JSON format. We can see host name CSR 1000V -iOS-XE, which is already here. And we can find also the interface Giga Ethernet, and the name of the Giga Ethernet is 1. And the IP address of this Giga Ethernet 1 has an IP address which is 192.168.129.156 with the subnet mask 255.255.255.0. And we have another interface defined, which is Giga Ethernet 2 with an IP address 172.23.3.1. And we can find also the loopback interface and many others regarding the VTY, like you are viewing the entire configuration file of the router. In the output of the running configuration file of the router, we can find router. And inside router, we have Cisco IOS XE OSPF. This is the section of the OSPF configuration. OSPF process ID 1, and the networks defined is 1111 wildcard mask 0.0.0.0 for area 0, and the IP address 172.23.3.1 wildcard mask 0.0.0.0 for area 0. the configuration of the OSPF, show run section OSPF, we can find exactly what we have found after receiving with Ansible Playbook File, the running configuration file in JSON format. I'm going now to filter from the configuration file this section only to be displayed by the Ansible Playbook File. I have to edit the URL in the Ansible Playbook File to only include the section of router. Here I'm going to add after native /router. Save the playbook file and run it again. The tasks completed successfully for the host, and we printed only the section of router OSPF. Next playbook file we have is to configure OSPF for Cisco IOS XE. We have to configure this section. We need to convert this JSON format into YAML. We can add the YAML host vars file and ask the playbook file to configure the OSPF with the host vars file. Let's copy the JSON format for the OSPF configuration, starting with the curly bracket after running _config.json and take until the second last curly bracket. Now, on the CLI configuration of the Cisco IOS XE, I'm going to remove router OSPF 1 with command no router OSPF 1, write memory to save the configuration. Now I will check if the OSPF configuration is existing. It's removed because nothing displayed. At Google, I'm going to search for JSON to YAML converter. In JSON to YAML converter, I can convert any JSON format into YAML. This is a JSON YAML format I have taken from the terminal, which includes the router OSPF configuration section, and on the right side we can find the YAML conversion. This is a YAML file that will configure OSPF, process ID 1, and the networks 1.1.1 and 172.23.3.1 with their wildcard masks for area 0. Let's copy this YAML format and paste it into the host vars file. Now I am on the working directory of Ansible. We'll go to the directory of host vars, change directory host _ vars, and I'll create a new file named with a host IP address 192.168.129.156 and paste the conversion we've done from JSON to YAML. Save the file and exit back to the working directory of Ansible. Now I'm going to check the contents of configure _routers.yaml. We have here the name of the play is RESTCONF configure routers, hosts routers, the group name defined in the inventory file, connection local, gather facts, no, and tasks. The task name, which is task 1, configure OSPF, and the URI. The URI here is the URL, which will be retrieved from the group vars file, and we will add /data/native/router to configure the OSPF. And we will define the user and password variables, which will be retrieved from the group vars file. And the method here of the HTTP is put, because we are going to add or configure the OSPF for the Cisco IOS router. Headers here, it includes content type, which is application /yang-data plus JSON, and accept, which is application/yang-data plus JSON, and application/yang-data.errors plus JSON, so that we can send and receive the data in JSON format. The body format for the HTTP message is JSON. Body here, which is the data itself, the content itself, which is configure_OSPF variable. This variable must be added in the host vars file. Let's get back to the host vars directory and change the file name from the IP address of the host to be the IP address with the host.yaml. We can delete the file name, which is written without .yaml, and go to the host vars file again and add configure OSPF variable. Write it at the beginning of the file and use 2 spaces for the next lines. All 2 spaces. Save the file and exit. Get back again to the Ansible working directory and get back again to the configure_routers playbook file. The remaining is validate_certs false and status code what's expected from the router if the router was configured successfully with the required OSPF configuration. We expect to receive 200 or 204. Let's run now the playbook file with Ansible -playbook and the playbook file name configure_routers.yaml. I have received an error, syntax error or a syntax problem, and it seems it's in the host vars file. Let's get back to the host vars directory and check. We can find here that the configure_OSPF is missing colon. I added the colon and save changes, exit, get back to the working directory of the playbook and run the playbook again. This is a result of the playbook, of running the playbook file. The host IP is okay and the task was okay. Let's check now the CLI of the router Cisco IOS XE. Show run again. Show run section OSPF. We can find that the router OSPF1 is back again. Network 1.1.1.1 at network 172.23.3.1. We've successfully implemented configuration for the Cisco IOS XE with Ansible playbook file. Thank you for viewing this video. I hope it can add a good value to you.